Hi, everyone, and welcome back. So, today's episode is going to be a wee bit different. I sat down with my friend Darrah Lopez, who has inspired me in so many ways, especially when it comes to embracing my dark feminine. So, today we're going to talk about deities, astrology, embracing the dark with the light, and with that, a whole lot of healing. So, today's episode went really well, but just in case you happen to hear something that sounds like a dove outside of my door, that would indeed be my dog. He was very adamant about getting all of the wonderful tea on today's episode, so I do apologize for that. But feel free to let us know what you take away from this episode, and if you liked it and we can do more things like this, I love any excuse to embrace my witchy side when it comes to spiritualism. So without further ado, here's one of my favorite souls, Darrah Lopez. There are these philosophers. There was Plato, and who was the other one? Socrates was one of them. And then Picasso. They had this method for when they fall asleep. What they'll do is they'll hold like a heavy object in their hand and then put a metal pan underneath of it on the floor. So when they fall asleep, the minute that they fall asleep, and that makes a loud bang because whatever's in their hand, they drop. They wake up and they write down what their ideas are immediately, and that's how they've all created. Yeah, they're masterpieces, right? Cool. And so I was thinking about like connecting it with like the NDEs and stuff, and something that I do that I've done my entire life is like right when I fall asleep, to the point where I'm at like that paralyzed state where you're just like, nope, I'm in it, I'm about to fall asleep.
It's like a theta. Yeah, it's like thetas. I honestly, it's really weird, and this is very like shallow for the gifts that I have, for this to be what I have to share as my experience. But recently I was just half asleep one day and I haven't had my nails done in a while, and I thought about Shigo, and I was like in theta, and I was like, I don't want them to even look like her. I just want black and green. And it's just like, why did I think of that? And it's just one thing that we're here to do is create. And I don't know why, that's just what hit my mind. And it's stuff like that seems meaningless, but isn't. But it's just interesting how your mind works, that when you're in theta, you think of the most creative things, or you can remember things, or you're just, I don't know. It's just the most surreal moments is when you're in a deep theta.
When you were talking to me about like childhood traumas and like not remembering certain things, I've been thinking about that a lot lately too, and just sitting with myself, and I'm like, how much of my childhood do I really remember? Right. Because when I talk about it, all I ever say is like, yeah, I had a pretty happy childhood. Everything's been good. But then I started thinking about it more, and I was like, I don't remember like anything. And that was like that there was a night where I was in the same stage, in the same state of like paralyzed with sleep,
right?
And I started remembering like these fucking awful things, and then the next morning I couldn't remember what they were, and it was just like, god damn, like I need to remember this to like move on and heal. But how am I going to do that if I don't like force myself to get up and like write this shit down?
Yeah, that is definitely a step. And I also feel like psychedelics, it opens parts of your brains, so it can introduce you to that healing that you need, and you won't even remember that these things have happened to you. You can get in a deep meditative state, and people think meditation's all like calmness, and it can be, but it depends on, sometimes that's why it's called divine timing. They tell you things at timings they feel like you're ready to hear that, because have you heard it 2 years ago, you wouldn't know how to handle that. And that's why I remember one time I was just petting my cats, and I got a shiver even saying it, but I was petting my cats. And sometimes we meditate when we clean, we meditate when we pet, and we don't even notice it.
I meditate when I drive.
That's one of the best times to meditate. And you don't even realize you're meditating. I'm just petting my cats, and I remember something that was actually horrifying that happened to me when I was young. And that is sometimes how it happens, and they give you that type of channeled message when you're ready. So yeah, it's intense.
Yeah, and it always comes like out of nowhere for me, like when it comes to like childhood traumas specifically. When you focus your intentions on something, that's what's gonna come to you, and that was what I did.
Yeah, that's good. And also the divine hears these messages of you saying I'm ready, so they deliver. When you're ready, they will deliver. So that's another thing too, is us talking about it. Maybe even like we sometimes discard things or disregard things that we don't even notice we're disregarding until we talk about it. We're like, oh, and you just realize, oh, that's something that I need to work on. And you give that permission out, and the divine is like, okay, here's something you don't remember. And they channel that energy when your mind's completely open and empty to receiving those messages, whether it's meditation, theta, eating psychedelic mushrooms, or any type of way that you get to that state, you will receive those messages.
Absolutely. That's very true. Like what you want and what you focus on. Like you were just talking to me about the house and like how I got this house, and it was because that's what I put out into the universe. And like that's what manifesting is. It's like working together with the universe to create your reality. And you don't have to Jesus, there are some days where I manifest a fucking cookie.
Yeah.
Where I manifest a brownie and I'm like, man, all I can think about today is like how bad I really want a chocolate cupcake.
And then you walk past the chocolate cupcake freaking cart.
Yeah, and then somebody brings in fucking chocolate cupcakes that day to work when I get back from cleaning, and it's like, oh my God, I love this shit. And like, just if you want to break out of the matrix, if you want to stop living your life, like you can do that. We have so many gifts. I believe that every person that walks around on this planet has all of the gifts. You just have to embrace them and want them and align with them.
You got to tune in. I know you go through this. You'll meet someone and they're not completely in their power. And even we're so strong because with our gifts, we're also aware. But you meet those people that's like, wow, if you're aware, you'd be even stronger than me. And you're like, wow, you're a powerful motherfucker. You're a badass. And you can just feel their energy. And personally, that's my boyfriend, but he has like placements, Scorpio stellium. Everyone knows Scorpio is one of the most psychic signs.
Do you want to tell them what a stellium is?
So a stellium is when you have one zodiac sign and multiple planets in your chart. So
yes, perfect. So he's a Scorpio stellium.
Yes, he is. Pluto, Venus, Jupiter, Mercury, and rising. Yes.
Damn.
Yes.
That's a lot.
It's beautiful. And it's so beautiful. Like when you notice these things about people and they don't know, it's like, wow, you have no idea. I would kill to be a Scorpio rising. I would kill to be a Scorpio Venus.
It's who you are. And like, I'm so thankful to astrology specifically because I feel like that opened up such a book for me. That it's a book of my life.
Yes.
When I look at birth charts, I'm like, okay, well, I understand that these are like supposed to be these guidelines, right? But also I've never read someone's birth chart to them before and they have not told me that I'm wrong. And it breaks down to specifics too, like in a way that is just so detailed that it only makes sense to that person. And the certain, like there's houses and there's all the different signs, and in each sign, and depending on where it's at in the house, it reacts differently. So like I think that people that don't understand astrology and how it comes into their life, it's just because they don't fully understand the spectrum of astrology.
Exactly.
Each sign can be in a different house and mean something different, but still run along the same lines.
Yes. And it's kind of crazy because you can meet a person like astrology. All astrology is just proving that you are who you seem to be. So like if I meet a person and let's say that they have the way that they express their pleasure is kind of like in a very luxurious yet grounded type of way, I'm going to think you're an earth sign, but I'm going to instantly go to Taurus because the pleasurable part is like more of like, I just feel like obviously a Taurus is a Venusian sign. It's a more of about pleasure and luxury. So I'm just going to really more so feel that off of you. And I can say that because I can feel it off of you, and then you go to their chart and it's like it's just confirming that you are who you seem to be.
Isn't that the best feeling though?
Yeah.
Like when you guess and then it's like you're right, and it's the placements, not like the sun and the moon and the rising. It's like the deep ones, like the Venus. I love that.
That. That's when you feel, oh, I just got shivers again, but you like when you can guess someone's Mars or Venus, that is the most beautiful thing, because it's like, oh, I can feel your emotions, I can feel your energy, I can feel what you seek pleasure in, and it's just it's really beautiful. And I feel like the sun, moon, rising. Yeah, those are great, but they're kind of easy. I like getting like, more
Right.
into the depth of things and seeing what your Venus and Mars are. And it's so pretty because people don't have to be so obvious for you to know. People like us, we can just feel it. We just tune in and we're like, oh, you're a Taurus Venus.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like learning astrology has almost given me like a leg up because I've always been a very good people reader. I can always walk in and just know how someone's feeling as soon as I enter the room.
Yeah.
And that's being an empath. But I feel like learning astrology has helped me to learn people even more.
I agree with that.
And especially when it comes to helping people, like something that I do for all of my energy coaching clients is I'm like, okay, well, first of all, in order to do your birth chart, I'm going to need full permission to like see you as who you are, because when it comes to things like your Lilith, like that's going to get detailed about like the bad sides of you. But in order to help people, I offer that to them like as a bonus, like, look, if I can do your birth chart for you, we're going to get your shit fixed. Like we're going to get you on track.
Yes.
But it does take a certain amount of vulnerability to be able to do that, because we can see the darkness and
like
the
story. Yeah. And the thing about the beauty about being a birth chart reader is there could be someone that's stuck and they've been stuck for a long time. They might not know it. And you could be like, oh, you have this placement. This placement is a placement that keeps you stuck. And in that placement, you can see what is holding them back, but also within that placement, it's something that had happened to them when they're younger. Like, let's talk about 12th house.
Okay. Darrah just read my mind, because when we first brought up astrology, I was like, I need to talk about 12th house. I'm really excited because I have a Sagittarius 12th house.
Libra 12th house moon. So 12th house I don't want to say this, but I feel like it can be a very dark house. And your 12th house speaks about childhood trauma. It speaks about it really makes, even as an empath, I feel like crying talking about it. It can let you know that someone went through a lot. You can meet someone as a person like us. You can meet someone and you're like, oh, you have a 12th house. What scares me is when you meet kids with 12th houses and you're like, wow, I know what's to come. I know what you're started. I know what's to come. It's really scary. The 12th house tells you that someone is going to have a rough life, or they've had a rough life, whether it's through childhood, it's something that they're healing from. It could be abandonment issues, abuse of any sort. It's a very, very hard house. And it usually makes me feel like your home and your parents. And it's dark and it's sad. And
I associate it with like your root chakra. I feel like 12th house has a lot to do with like roots, and the way that you grow up. Who you are stems from like this one little circle of like who you were when you were growing up and the things that you've been through, and like also where you came from too. I feel like that's also a part of 12 houses past lives, right?
Yes.
So another house, how familiar are you with 8th house?
And you're going to say that.
I knew you knew.
Okay, so I just want to go back to the 12th house and say that also it shows that how many people can, I believe it's like the past life karma that you've collected, or it could be from the collective karma. I'm still learning with that, but also I feel like the 12th house, you can transmute into something beautiful. It also shows where people sit in their power and take those strengths from all those things that they've learned and become above everything that they've learned. It creates the strongest people and healers. It creates very gifted people. Now the 8th house, that's a really dark house. That's the house of death. That's the house of sex. And actually, I don't have an 8th house, and I haven't met a lot of people with 8th house, but I feel like the 8th house, and this is intuitively, not logically speaking, it can be about some dark things like sexual assault and things that have happened to people. The 8th house is a very dark placement.
I don't have one either, but in the people that I have seen in 8th house and have been able to know their story, I'm like, I just want to hug them. As soon as I see an 8th house, I'm like, okay, honey, sit down, like hold my hand, let's talk about it, like let's heal you, because I know that 8th house means that they need a lot of healing and they need a lot of work because they've seen some fucking shit. Yes. Like I don't have an 8th house, but karmically I do have a lot of 4s.
I think 1 or 2 4. No, I think I have 1 4th house.
I either have 4 or 5.
Yeah, that's fun. Isn't that ancestral karma?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be. I've already been paying for my ancestors' trauma. But speaking of ancestry, I finally got to do this cool DNA kit test thing where they take your spit and they test like what ethnicity you are. And I've always wanted to do this for so long because I almost feel like it's like a validation thing for me because I
Yeah.
want to know where I came from. Like I love talking about past lives and things like that. And I feel like this helped me progress in that way. And I found out that I am 33% Scottish. I think
Mhm.
it was 33% from Scotland. And so I was cross referencing like all of these names that are my grandmother, okay, my maternal grandmother. Anyway, that's where we get all of our witchy stuff from. So I was looking through her specifically because I know that that's where the Scottish ties are. And I found out that I am related to a woman named Lorian McGee, and she was burned at the stake in 1717 for being a witch, and she was a part of the last witch trial that they ever did in Scotland.
That's strong.
And you want to know what the accuser said?
What?
She said that it was her and 6 other women, so we got the magical number 7 there. She said that 7 women astral projected and attacked her in her dreams, and that's why they were tried. And then when she woke up in the morning, she was like throwing up tar or something like that. And I was like, damn, girl.
It's kind of scary to think of what our ancestors had to go through. And I don't know logically, but I can tell that I know I have an ancestor like that too.
Mm-hmm.
And that song on TikTok, are you coming to the tree?
Mm-hmm.
They strung up a man who say he's murdered 3 strange things and happen. And
Gives me
the
chills.
yes, and it's just like I'm used to the darkness at this point, but it just feels so like it you want to be beautiful, but it's like it's so deep and it's just you can just feel the energy.
I want to talk
it.
about embracing the divine feminine
Yes.
and the dark feminine.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's actually a trend on TikTok right now, since we were talking about it, like everyone's working on embracing their dark feminine path.
Mhm.
And I have been trying to do the same thing because we need to embody that little bit of ego. I always thought that ego was like such a horrible thing and you need to get rid of it.
Yep.
Mhm.
Same page. I was on the same page.
And I'm like, no, we need an ego. We need just a little bit of the correct amount of ego to like make ourselves like who we are, to embody that person. So the dark feminine was something that I've been trying to pursue and like standing in my power by embracing my ego. Like how do you embrace your dark feminine?
Multiple ways. I want to say that's how I set my boundaries is when people meet people like us and with their energy, sometimes it doesn't even matter the energy. We always are like mothers, so we're accepting of a lot of people. But there's times where like people, I think they mistaken that kindness for weakness, and you have to embrace your dark feminine and be like, listen, this is who I am if I need to be. And I use my dark feminine to set boundaries. I use my dark feminine to embrace my sensuality, my sexuality, to sit in my power when I want to manifest something, when I want to pursue something with magic. Just there's so many protection spells. You use that lady for a lot of things.
Yeah.
You do, and she helps.
So Darrah and I also consider ourselves to be daughters of Hecate.
Yes.
And I would love for you to talk about Hecate since we're talking about dark feminine.
I would love to talk about Hecate. So Hecate is one of the triple moon goddesses. She is the crone. She's the goddess of witchcraft, transformation, rebirth, dark moons, full moons, crossroads. She holds the keys to the gates of the underworld. Oh, I'm getting chills. I love her. At the same time, I love her. She's my mom, and I don't care. That's my mom. She's my deity. And a deity, to my knowledge, how I consider it to be, is someone that you can reach out to multiple of them. There's gods, goddesses, different sources that you use pretty much, I feel like, as like a teacher and instructor for help. that helps us with, like, when I started, for example, getting into witchcraft, I didn't want to go into this, when you want to start getting into it, darker entities are like, oh, who's this energy?
Yeah.
That's when deity comes into play. And Mom Hecate, the beauty about her is she's as above, so below. Let's not forget that part. Embracing the darkness within the light and the light within the darkness. So with that, she teaches us that darkness is nothing to be afraid of. And one of my favorite things about her, and I'm going to say, I always say this, is what I love about her is if you summon her, and she will, I don't want to scare people, but she 9 times out of 10, she's great. She might not take a liking to you. And what I love about her is that she could be the person that protects you from these entities, or she could be the one that causes it. And if that isn't the type of deity you want,
this bitch took my toe one night. I remember the first night that I had decided to like make that dedication and to talk to her, like before I even knew officially like who she was and what she meant to me and like following me on the path. I had named a puppy after her because my dog had puppies, and I named them all after gods and goddesses, and Hecate was one of them, and she was so special to me the whole time. And I almost kept her instead of Branch. I had like both of them in my hands, and I was like, it's either Hecate or it's Branch. And when I went to pick Branch up to take a picture of him like for sale, I just started bawling, and I was like, okay, this is when I know. But I was also so attached to Hecate in the same way. And when I first reached out to her after, I was like, oh my God, like Hecate is serious. Like this means business. Like me naming this dog after her was probably like an offering to her. And I didn't realize that at the time. And then she came to me, and that night that I asked her, so before I realized that I was really good at money manifesting, I
love it.
I was like, Hecate, I know that this is the first time reaching out to you, but I really like need some financial help. And I know that you're the bitch that can get this done. Like I will give you what you want, but I have limitations. Like we're either going to make a deal here or we're not. And so the next day I ended up with $1,200 and a broken pinky toe.
I love that.
The next day.
That is some Hecate energy right there. I love that. Now I want you to tell me about Hecate. What do you think about her? How do you feel about her? I already know, but I want to hear it.
The first time that I invoked her was when I was stoned to the bone. And so I was in a very open mindset. And we were talking about this earlier, how we both feel like using these things helps to open your eye a little extra sometimes. And I feel the most creative during those times. So when I was about to invoke her, I was like, okay, Hecate. And then it was like all of the sudden, funny enough, this was the same exact night that I also met my highest self, which was crazy. So I'm like, all right, Hecate, doing my thing and whatever. And when I felt her there, my whole body was just covered in chills. And like, I felt afraid in her presence. It wasn't like a warm, welcoming, like, oh, hi, how's it going? It was just like, I'm here and I am a very powerful bitch and you are going to respect that.
Yes.
And that has been my experience with her. And like every time that I have reached out to her and she has been willing to work with me, it's always been that same type of energy. Like she deserves respect and she needs respect. And if you don't give that to her, she's gonna fuck you up.
But oh, does she love us? And that's what's so cute. It's like, when that like scary mean lady just doesn't really, I love her, I'm not trying to talk about her like this, but like is like, oh, I don't really like these type of kids, I don't whatever, but they're like, oh, but you're someone special to me. And then they can be so hard and rough with you or tough love, but they fucking love you. And that's what I love about her, is like she fucking loves me. She always tells me she's there. She reminds me, because even I remember invoking her, I was like, maybe she's not going to like me. I was like, please like me. And I want to speak about my experience is I started realizing how much I like her 3. I've always been obsessed with
Mhm.
3 since I was a little girl. I've always been obsessed with moon. I can go on for so many things that since I was a little kid that makes me know I've worked with her, known her in a past life because of how many things I was drawn to. So it's like they say, and I'm going to say this, that when you invoke a deity in this life, they probably wanted you to invoke them because you've worked with them in a past life. And with Hecate, I call her Hecate.
We call it
I
Hecate
try to,
sometimes,
yeah,
too.
that's usually, so with her, I was like, I don't know. I was like, I like her. And then I don't, one day I was like, I really like her. And I had a whole bunch of statues because I love Persephone, which of course you would like, we could get into that, but you love Persephone, you love Hecate. I do want to bring my boyfriend in the mix because with him, he's always like confirmation for me.
Yeah.
And when I was like, I'm leaning towards Hecate for my birthday. What did he get me for my birthday? November 19th. And honestly, that was one of Hecate's days, something about that of 2021. For my birthday, he got me Hecate's statue. And I invoked her that night. And her presence, I agree, very powerful. And I was like, oh, I was like, is she gonna like me? Always invoke with intention, always invoke with offerings, always invoke with the intention you say and you set.
So important. Like, you have to make sure that you have your shit together before you try to invoke a deity, because shit can go wrong, and make sure to keep yourself protected. And there are ways to do that, which I've talked about in another episode. And something that's very important when invoking a deity is, like, if you want to establish a relationship with them, like, an altar is very important. And on your altar, it's important to correspond the things that are associated with them as well. So like if you were working with Persephone, since we had mentioned her, you would leave her out like a pomegranate, like pomegranate. She's associated with pomegranate. So that's a perfect offering for her. And that's going to make her more willing to attempt that connection with you.
Yes. It's just showing your respect, and like the altar is open space for them. And some goddesses, like I have one big altar and I have little spots for different goddesses because you only have so much space. Of course, my biggest center space where I cast my circle is Hecate's sacred spot. Some goddesses, and Lilith, for example, wants their own altar. So I made her like a little casket that inside of it, I put her offerings that's still on my altar, but inside of her, that's her own space because it's just, and it's got a skeleton on it. So it reminds me of her.
Oh my gosh. I remember the first conversation that we had about Lilith, and I was just like blown away that I was so obsessed with this idea of her. And I remember being very drawn to her, and you're like, well, of course you're drawn to her. Like, you're one of Hecate's children. And I was like, oh, yeah, you're right. They do have like very similar energies.
Yes, very similar. Very, 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 very similar. And actually something you said earlier, I can't even remember, reminded me of Lilith. And I was like, yeah, that's because you have Lilith in you.
And like other ways that you can know that your deity is there with you is like if you light an incense and it like smokes a different way, or the way that your candles flicker. Oh my gosh, I would love to be able to post a picture here of what happened with my candle that I showed you. You remember the whole thing caught on fire. It was no longer just the wick, the whole entire candle was on fire when I was doing it happened to me twice. Powerful. And the second time I remember it was because I was talking about how passionate I feel about the workplace, and it caught on fire because it was like, yeah, bitch, you're right, you're on one. Like the work system here is really fucked up.
You want me to explain what that means to me? What I feel like that means is that you were doing something wonderful for her, and those energies there's certain energies that didn't like it.
Yeah.
And that was and if anything, it was the energy that was leaving her body that was no longer serving her purpose, low vibrational energy. That energy just.
So I have these witches bells that I keep on my doorknob. Yes. And they never really go off, and they're there for protection. They're there to alert you, like let you know, like, hey, ding-a-ling, someone's here. And when I had Danielle over here 2 nights ago. I was helping her heal from a situation that she has going on at her house. She has a very dark entity in her home, and she came to me so that I could write out a ritual for her to not banish, but to lay down the law and say, like, look, bitch, this is my house. You can stay if you want, but these are my terms. So I wrote her out this ritual for that. And when I was talking to her about it and she was explaining to me what was going on, my bells started going off. And I asked her, I was like, did you bring him into my home? And as soon as I asked her that, the bells started going off again. And it was like the entire time that she was here with me in this room, those bells were ringing. Ooh. And so I did a blessing for her. I cleansed her. I was like, Danielle, but the most important part in this is that you have to embody the fuck you, these are my rules. Like, if you do not live with that intention and you don't believe it, then things are not going to work out for you. Like, your intentions are everything, and so are your words. Your words are spells. If you don't put the right words out there, you're going to bring a shitstorm directly to you.
And this is when the inner dark feminine helps, is when entities, and exactly what our inner dark feminine is to me is our dark entity within ourselves. Yeah. And that it's like, hey, I'm big dog right around here, they're gonna go away. And also, yes, what you speak into the universe matters. So spirit, I see on Facebook this meme that says, don't say you're dumb, because spirit doesn't know jokes. And well, I believe you are who you say you are, and it is what you say it is. So say what you want it to be and be who you want to be, because you manifest, especially the stronger you become into your power. When you have your days that you're low vibrational, don't say those things, because you're very strong at this point and you're going to manifest, and you're going to see yourself trip or fall. Or if you're dumb, you're going to be dumb all day. You're going to wonder why you feel ditzy. And that's why you don't want to say these things. It's very important. What we say to ourselves is very important. Say, water yourself like a plant. If you had a plant, you wouldn't say you're a dumb, stupid plant. You got to say to yourself, affirmations are important. I'm beautiful, I'm kind, I'm smart, I'm strong, I'm compassionate, I'm powerful, I'm confident, I'm courageous, I'm patient, I am calm, I am important. That's my favorite one. Affirmations are very important. It's really important. And then be prepared for the universe to prove that you are who you say you are when you use affirmations, though, too.
Oh, so yeah. Oh,
not forget that part.
I feel like I had to learn that the hard way, that your words are everything to you. Like, some of my friends will just say, I'm really not doing good right now. Like, I'm just not in a good place. And like, that's a bad habit that I have as well. Is like, when I'm in a dark place, I'm like, well, I'm in a dark place right now. Right. And it's like, you can't pull yourself out of it if you don't change that narrative. And like, most importantly, when you change your narrative, if you don't believe it, it's not going to happen. But if you believe that with your whole heart and soul, just like manifesting, you have to know that it's true to let it come to you. Literally. And I want to just say that I believe society has instilled fear and worry in people. And fear isn't like, oh, I'm scared of everything. What I mean is, fear is when you're like, I'm excited for this, but you're like, but what if this happens? But what if this happens? It's going to happen. When you manifest, they say, use your energy to create, to hope, to desire. Don't use your energy to worry, because then you're going to manifest all of that worry. I'm still learning and getting better every day. And that's another good affirmation, is because we're not perfect. I think when someone ticks me off and I'm in a higher vibration to receive that energy and be better, I will just say, hey, they're learning and getting better every day. With myself, I'm learning and getting better every day. And that's important to say too, and to say those things, because no matter what path we're on, we're all learning and getting better every day. None of us are masters, because that's why we're here. Exactly. Oh my gosh. Like, nobody has all of the answers either. I think that no matter how blessed with knowledge you are and like knowing things, like, there's only so much that we can ever really know. And I feel like the way that I get my higher knowing is when I do things like in a very intentional based meditation. Yes. And when I get in that headspace and I ask for answers, like, if I don't know the answer to something, I'm not going to tell you that I do. Right. Because the worst thing for me is like steering people wrong. Like, I don't want you to quote me if I'm not correct. And I know that when I read the 4 agreements, that was when it really clicked for me that like, your words are your life. And like, if you give someone misinformation, that's literally what you're putting out into the world. Yeah. That's not where we want to go with that. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So I think that that's a lot of what I use when I do my energy coaching is I'm like, okay, well, look here, we're gonna build you back up from the ground, and we're gonna teach you how to rethink and retrain your brain to think this way. But also at the same time, it's like if we didn't have dark moments, we wouldn't have light moments either.
As above, so below.
It's so important to have balance in your life. Like if you don't have the lows, how could you ever appreciate the highs or even know when you're in the highs?
Yeah, that's one thing is I feel like they say rock bottom has taught me that everything that mountaintops never will. And you wouldn't know you're in a good place if you weren't in those bad places. And that's what, like, I have everything I've ever wanted in life, and I don't own my own house. I don't have a big house and a picket fence and a nice car and $1 million in my bank account, but it's because I've seen where I could be. And I'm so grateful every day for where I'm at. And gratitude is the way to start. But you can't just say you're grateful. You got to be grateful. Be grateful for where you're at. Always be grateful, because it just be grateful.
When I manifested my house, I was in a very, very low, sad, depressed, awful state. And the moment that I chose to, that was when I started my shadow work. And I was like, no, bitch, this isn't right. Like, you need to heal yourself. And when I started healing myself and feeling better and accepting the position that I was in my life, I feel like that's when I got this gift of a house, was when I started realizing, like, no, you need to learn how to be happy where you're at before you can deserve like these things.
Yes. And you mentioned shadow work, and I feel like that's a great step into all of this. So what would you describe shadow work to be, Faith?
Shadow work is, for me, going back and looking on my past and rewriting down those moments that I can learn from. So like if there's something that has happened to me like 5, 6, 7 years ago, even like 2 years ago, even 30 minutes ago, you can write it down and figure out how you could have handled that situation better, and then takes these steps towards actually fixing it and making yourself think of things in a better light. It is forgiving yourself for the ppast.
That is what shadow work is. Shadow work is self-reflection. That is
Mhm.
definitely, shadow work is a mirror for your soul, for yourself, for your past. It is definitely shadow work is everything. And I personally believe you won't get anywhere in life without shadow work first.
100%, 100%. And that's something that I enjoy about spiritualism. I feel like there are so many different sides of the way that people see spiritualism. There's people that don't believe in the metaphysical and just believe in the mindset work.
Yep.
And there are people that believe in the metaphysical and no mindset work. And that's where I feel like we really were able to bond with each other, because we agree with both of them. Like, they're both very important things. And I feel like they go hand in hand a lot too.
And you'll come to realize that with spirituality, almost everything comes hand in hand. And just like,
Mhm.
I feel like when you were talking about getting answers, there's some answers we'll never have. And I've realized the one thing that matters in this world is love. So if you meet somebody and they believe that the universe was created because Shiva shedded this tear and it created the whole universe, but someone believes this, I believe it's all oneness. And I believe we live in, first of all, parallel universes. Someone could think of me right now like I have a baby. And you know how many times me and Josh hear that? And I think that that's weird. And I think it's a dimensional
Oh, I got
thing.
chills. I just got chills.
I think it's a dimensional thing, if I'm being honest, but it's just like, it's stuff like that. And it's literally, it's pretty, yeah, it's pretty insane.
I agree. And you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and tell the story. So I've been looking into time travel and quantum metaphysics and quantum mechanics and things like that, because I live and breathe and die for the metaphysical. I find it so fun and interesting. So something that has been coming into my life a lot recently is like time bending and time travel and switching timelines specifically.
Yes.
And the other night, this is when I knew that I was in control and I could make it happen. I was folding my clothes on the bed. It was the first day of my life ever as an adult that I did my laundry and then took it directly upstairs and folded it and put it away. Never done that in my life. I leave it sit for
And
like.
you shifted a timeline.
I did. I did.
Doing one thing different a day. Isn't that crazy? So I like I don't walk my dog before I do a nail appointment. I walk her after, but I walked her first yesterday. You'll notice it sets a whole different tone. It's
I'm so glad you just confirmed that for me, because
I
haven't voiced this to anybody yet. You're the first person that I'm talking to about this.
Thank you.
So when I did that, when I started, it was, oh my God, it was the last sock. Okay, this sock, I picked it up, it was inside out. So I flipped it right side out, put it back down. And when I looked at the sock again, it was inside out again, Darrah. So I picked it back up, flipped it inside out, paired it with another sock, folded it together, set it down, folded another shirt, looked back at the sock, and it was by itself inside out again. It happened 3 times. And in that moment, I got really lightheaded and I was super fucking dizzy and I couldn't feel my legs at all. And then everything turned into like a haze. And that's all I want to get into for now. But I shifted timelines.
That feeling
though. The fear in my soul, like looking at that sock, that I was like, no,
that happens.
No way.
That stuff's so
it's timeline shifts. I swear to God, like once you can recognize that, I feel like we have the power to choose our timelines.
Yes.
And I feel like that was the first time that I was able to do that and recognize that. And we had an insane trip. I've never taken all of my spiritual stuff with me before, but I decided to take all of my crystals and everything with me. And I had like the most crazy revelations the whole time, because it's been so long since I've taken a road trip. And those are huge meditative times for me when I feel like I just get all the answers just channeled. And it was really cool.
That is really cool. I have a common experience. My car was illegal last summer and I decided to take my car 10 hours away. And I traveled state through state through state, went past multiple cops, but I was, especially in the summer, I feel like all the sun, I'm just literally like a spirit in my body. I'm not even like human at all, which is trying to learn balance because it kind of gets a little crazy, but you want to like not feel like an alien in the planet. All right, I create my reality, right? Oh, okay. I'm not gonna get pulled over. I'm not gonna even be scared. I'm not gonna even think cops, because really I live on a floating rock. What I say goes. I am source in a human flesh myself. We're all parts of source. We create our realities. And the reason why a lot of issues happen is because we're so conditioned to be like worried. And that's why me and you and people that are on this path are fighting that worry. Like, no, I'm not going to be worried, because we're like, okay, I'm a creator. I'm going to go through these states and I'm going to be fine. And you really feel it. You believe it. You don't think of cops once, and next, even though there's radars that go off for license plates, it's not happening. I believe, and this might sound nuts, and that's okay. And I intuitively know this, that how it works when you're past the matrix and you're literally shifting timelines is that technology screws up. So let's say any other day he could have read a plate that drove past him. He can't read my plate. I'm literally completely past the matrix. Watch the Matrix movies, the newest one. Yes. How he comes in the end, Keanu Reeves and the woman that he loves, they're just pretty much like, we're just gonna redesign the place a little bit. It's the Matrix, it's the simulation, because when you can do whatever you want. I'm literally shivering, bro. You can do whatever you want. And after this podcast, I'm going to get walking tacos and I'm going to have a good time with my boyfriend and we're going to be happy.
Straight.
So
that's all it takes.
That's all it is.
If you just believe in it and you know it and you feel it inside of you and you embody that, like that is your reality. Thank you so much for saying that. That was beautifully channeled. I got super hot like midway through it because I was just feeling it so much.
I got hot a couple times when you were talking. I was like, my cheeks, I can feel it in my face. Oh, and alchemy. Let's talk about when someone does come to you with certain energies. Higher energy always defeats lower energy. So unless you're in that low energy, you'll sink into their low energy. But when you're in your high energy, you're not going to sink in their energy. So you bring these people up with you. So if like you're around someone, no matter how powerful their anger or negativity is, because you're such a high vibrational person, they're going to look at you and be like, all right, I want to go be happy too. I want to go get a coffee too. I want to go smoke a blunt too. And next thing you know, everyone around you is happy. You know how many times I've been around my boyfriend and people that we used to surround ourselves with, or other people we have, where they could be negative, and we'd walk into those rooms and him and I were just high vibes, and everyone's happy.
Exactly.
You leave and everyone's happy. I love manipulating
Energy.
energy.
Exactly. It's
Everything's just
contagious and you
energy.
can
That's all it
change it.
is.
And it makes me like yesterday when I came home from work, Austin was telling me, he's like, I wanted to cry when I got home and I've just been feeling really bad all day. And you've been here for like 3 minutes and I already feel completely different. Like there's nothing in me that wants to even think about crying anymore. And I was like, how nice, because I didn't come home in a good mood either.
Isn't it? Because it feels like our responsibility,
It's
because
just,
we're so enlightened. When you're like, and I do with my boyfriend,
yeah,
where I'll be like, and I'm like, you know what? I have to be that stronger person. I have the capacity for it. And I'll be like, come on, babe, let's get up. Let's do. And sometimes he's that for me. And that's why I feel like it's
yeah,
amazing. Cause just because he's not, I always say like he's subconsciously on our path. I'm more of like, I pay attention, I'm aware. And he's like, just does it.
yeah,
So he'll see and he'll be like, come on, babe, let's be like this, or let's be like that. And next thing you know, you're in a different energy. And that's why sometimes I'll cry and I'll be like, thank you, Josh. Thank you for not letting me get in a rut. But what is scary is when someone else doesn't want to do that. Next, you're both in a rut. So that's why it takes the one or the other to be
exactly.
like, all right, let's just be high vibes. And that is a collective thing that affects the whole world. It affects everyone around us. It makes the
Completely.
energy just shift within each other. Let's talk about how one person can awaken, heighten their frequency, and next thing you know, it heightens the frequency of everyone around them.
That's exactly what happened to me when I
Crazy.
started my
Oh
journey.
my
Like
God.
immediately I was like, Sam, okay, bitch, like we're gonna go through some shit. And that was like how her journey started. And like 4 other people, like I was able to do that for.
I've
And
seen
like
you pull her.
and it was just,
I've seen it. I've seen you pull Sam. I've seen you pull them. I remember when I met them before I met you, and beautiful girls, but it sometimes takes one of us to just pull you along and be like, hey, you're heightening your frequency with me, man.
yeah, we're gonna
I've done it
fucking
with
level up.
several. Yep. I've done it with several people, and it's beautiful. It is
That's how you know
beautiful.
you're a healer, just like in every way. Like we were just, I feel sent here to heal people. Like
Same.
I'm trying to stay away from saying like change the world, even though like that's the whole goal, right? Is we want to change the world, but realistically we can't do that. We can change people, we can change bodies, and we can help those people change other people and help them grow. So I try to look at it as like
So we do change the world.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
energies, I believe, I agree. I think we do change the world, actually, because the fact that we heighten our frequency, it's a ripple effect. Dolores Cannon, love her. Look her up if you want to learn anything about energy manipulation, frequency, the collective consciousness changing, new earth, all of that. I actually believe you change the world, your universe within yourself. And then knowing that there's two, it's too much for me. It's powerful. So when we speak to our groups that you might never come across, in your groups that I might never come across, it's a ripple effect from who they come across, and it just keeps rippling. And therefore we have changed this planet. Had you not awakened, had I not awakened, and all these people had started a while ago, we wouldn't be where we are right now. And it literally took, it's just a ripple effect, and it changes the world. It takes one person to wake up, and it literally shifts consciousness of the planet. So just stay woke and
there you
manipulate
fucking have
energy,
it.
and open your mind, open yourself to the path. And that's all spirituality is openness and oneness. It's not that complex.
Oh my gosh.
All it is.
Yes. Oh my
You
gosh.
can't Google it.
That's
I'm
the
gonna tell
thing.
you with my path, and that's what's beautiful about it. There, it was before it was trends, it was before, and I'll just say, I had a lady come in to where I worked, told me who I was. It freaked me out. My body naturally wanted to go to Creative Imports, get a crystal. A few months later, next thing you know, a few months later, I'm grabbing tarot. I never once opened up Google. It's like, how do I start? It doesn't work like that. You're pushing it. You got it, it'll come. It's not something you can Google. People think that they can research this. It's not that. It's all in here. And one thing, but one thing that kind of drives me nuts is that people think that if they can't find it to confirm it, that it's not real. We have search engines that are literally so limited for a reason. We are literally living in a propaganda world.
Why is there the dark web?
Exactly, which we have 10% access to the internet. And first of all, just go to YouTube and just listen to these people that have past live regressions, people that have near-death experiences. that should be enough. I'm literally shivering so bad. That should be enough for you to understand that this is something that you cannot Google. This is something that is so real, and it's not something that is just straight by the book, that this has to be like this, like this, like this. Everybody's path is different, and it is valid, and it's crazy.
Right.
This is real.
Exactly.
People need to realize this is real. This is no joke. There's no Google search word for what we're doing. This is it.
There are so many questions that I had in the beginning of my journey, and like still today, that it's like I don't get answers from until I talk to somebody about it who went through the same thing. Like, you are that person for me. So Darrah is actually my nail lady, and that's how I met her. And like, I was so excited every time that I got to see Darrah, because I knew that she always has these answers for me every time that I'm like, girl, so this crazy thing happened, and then she's like, no way, this crazy thing happened to me too. And like, she's confirmation for me. She's
confirmation for me. She's validation for me. Anytime I just got done doing something, she's doing it. Like, I will say, I've met so many people on this path that are a little ahead, a little behind. She's the first and only one person I've met that is literally like, when I just start thinking of one thing like hoodoo, she's thinking of hoodoo. And she asked me, Darrah, what is hoodoo? If you're asking, just know I'm asking, because I'm on the same path as you all the time. Right? I do not know what hoodoo is, and we're both learning. Or I just know, oh, Faith is in hermit mode. What do you think Darrah's doing? I was in hermit mode. If hers was a month, mine was a month. It's just, it's not like I'm like, Faith, let's do this. We won't even see each other for months. We have such a strong connection, and it's so crazy.
Sometimes I'm like, yeah, do I really need testimonials from people? I'm like, I am the testimonial. Like, literally, if I can do this shit, so can you.
Yes.
Like, yes. The places that I've come from, like the places that you have come from, like, look at where we are now.
And that's literally why I'm so thankful from where I came from, because we wouldn't be where we are if we didn't come from where we came from. Exactly. That 12th house, man.
Exactly.
Really, really makes or breaks a person. And if you've made it, congratulations. It just gets better. That's how I feel.
Yeah. Yeah, truly. And like we said, if that's what you believe, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. We are the creators.
Do you have any closing thoughts for the people?
My closing thoughts for you guys is just stay open to new things. Keep your mind open, keep your heart open, keep your judgments on the low, because you'll come to see that there's no right or wrong way. It just is what it is, man.
Straight up. That's one of my favorite sayings, though, is like, it is what it is, because it is
what it is. Like, it literally just is. Like, don't question it. Usually just don't question it, because it usually is what it is.
Learn to let go, live by the moon, live by the sun, balance, babies.
Worry less, create more. Love and light.
And with that, thank you very much for joining us on this episode. Everyone, big round of applause for Miss Darrah.
Thanks for having me.
And we would love to have you on again sometime.
I would love to be here.
But thank you so much, guys. That's all for now. We'll see you in the next episode.